Hi, I'm Bike Angels from Yamaha Corporation America here on Synthtopia with Montage. Montage is the replacement to the Motif XF. So I think the first thing I'd like to do is just talk about what Montage is so that we have a good understanding. Montage is two synth engines brought together by a very sophisticated control matrix called motion control. So the first engine is AWN2. It's our sample-based format that the Motif was built on, but it is exponentially larger wave ROM than the Motif. So this is about almost 10 times the wave ROM included inside Montage above and beyond where the XF was. So that's the first thing. The polyphony in that engine's also doubled. It's 128 note stereo polyphony as opposed to 128 mono polyphony what the XF was. So double the polyphony and 10 times the wave ROM essentially. That's one of the engines. The other engine is FMX. It's our newest version of FM. It's an 8-operator FM synthesizer that you have multiple waveform types in the operator itself. So you don't have to just choose from sine waves. There's other waveform that you can change the skirt and change a lot of the cool harmonics of the operators included as well. And that's 128 note polyphony as well. So these two engines are brought together by a very sophisticated control matrix called motion control. So what motion control does is we have this new, very cool illuminated super knob right here, and I can assign super knob to a pedal like I have down here. I'm going to bring it a little closer here. So I can control the super knob just with a pedal, and you can see it moving here, I think, or did we? Anyway, so now you can see the super knob turning it there so you can see what it looks like. So what motion control can do, a couple of things. With motion control, in real time, I can control up to 16 different parameters in real time. So, people want to do 2 things at once, when you're running knobs and stuff, but what if you want to do 5 things at once? You don't have 5 hands. So motion control allows you to put up to 16 parameters, and they can do a host of different things. There's about 26 different types of curves. There's like a sigmoid curve, there's a sine curve, there's a dog leg kind of curve, and they can move this way, they can move that way. So you can do a whole host of different control things between the two engines or within things. You can blend things together. You can do really sophisticated things, or you can do kind of simple things. So I'm going to show some of that stuff as I move forward. There's also motion sequences, which are control sequences that play without me having to move anything, that do it in real time, and you can watch it turn and move itself. So it's very, very similar to anything that's done sort of motion sequencing thing. So first thing I'll show is this first sound I like to play. It's called Turn It On because it's just huge. So it's basically a very kind of a thin little synth sound. But with motion control, this is going to interpolate to this huge, huge sound by just going like this. So you heard multiple parameters moving at the same time with it. That's a great example. It also kind of highlights the fidelity of Montage. I've been living with both of these instruments, the XF and the Montage, and comparing them as this has developed. And the audio quality from this and the sound is just, it's a lot bigger. It's noticeably bigger than the Motif. So it's definitely an upgrade sonically. So I'll talk about the pianos. We added a brand new version of the CFX, which is by far the best one we've had. And it's unfortunate that NAMM and subtlety are diametrically opposing things. So it's a very subtle piano and it's very low level, and I wish you could really hear it in here. But if you get a chance, you can either play one over there through headphones, which may or may not help because it's loud. But when you get a chance, when it's in the stores or when you look online, listen to this piano. Because I play it very soft usually, but you can hardly hear it unless you have the headphones on. It's just unbelievably dynamic. But I can play super soft. And every note has been sampled at multiple velocity levels all the way across the instrument. Again, there's some videos online where you can really hear it great, but it's been blowing my mind when I'm at home playing it, because it really does what the CFX, what I love about the Yamaha CFX Concert Grand, is that it has this amazing ability to play super soft, but then a CFX can project over a symphony orchestra, no problem acoustically. It just has this huge dynamic range, and that really is what you hear with this CFX in here. Just totally gorgeous piano sound. We also have, for the first year of release of Montage, we'll be giving people the Bosendorfer Imperial Grand, another. Every note's been sampled on the Imperial Grand, and it's an entirely different sounding piano. In fact, you have the opportunity, which you probably don't every day, to play them both if you get a chance. There's a CFX over there, and there's an Imperial Bosendorfer over there. So check them out, because they're very different pianos. The Bosendorfer, I'll just play the low end of the CFX first. That's the CFX. Listen to the difference on the low end on the Bosendorfer. CFX. So the Bosendorfer has a more woody, kind of low end like you'd expect. And the CFX is a more focused kind of sound, especially at the mid-range. There's the CFX. Here's the Bosendorfer. Different pianos. Whichever one is better is your choice, but they are both amazing pianos for different uses. So that's the two pianos. The next one you have here is the Seattle Sections. I like to show some of the ways you can use motion control. So I'll start with using realistic sounding instruments. With Seattle Sections, since I'm from basically Seattle, this is the Seattle Symphony. So we did a big sampling session. We recorded the Seattle Symphony at various ensemble sizes. So what this does is it allows me to move using motion control on my foot. I can move from an ensemble to a very small group of about 4 or 5 string players. So I have this kind of like. Now I'll move. So seamlessly blending between different sizes. That's a simple one. How about orchestral brass swell? This one, again, is super subtle when it's at the very bottom. You can barely hear it, right? So in that case, it's not the ensemble just getting louder or having filter to make it brighter or something. It's actually increasing the number of players. It's like starting out with 4 French horns and then adding the trombones, bringing in the trumpets and so on to a full. Another way you can motion control. Last one I'll play here from the realistic sounds is a choir that I add a string and then a pipe organ. So I can have these. So being able to bring things in and out like that. All of the kind of cool things you can do in that regard with motion control. Now I'll do some stuff that's a little bit more interpolation, a little bit more sound designing. These are 2 different FM sounds that I basically interpolate between one and go to the other. The first one is sort of this cacophonous, very FM bell sound. Now listen to this interpolate to the sound over here going the other direction. Sound that's very pitched appears. I'll go the other direction. So another just trippy sound, cool sound. Since I'm talking about FM, I just found this sound last night because Salo was over there playing. just a bit ago at 2 o'clock. I think he just finished. And he started playing this jazz guitar sound. And I hadn't heard it before. I thought I'd heard a lot of the sounds, but I just thought it was a cool jazz guitar sound. With this one, motion control is just doing something like just adding more effects in here. So I have, but this guitar sound. That's a pure FM sound. That's one part FM. That's it. So the FM synthesizer in here has really been changed and it's added. It's super, super amazing. I just haven't played a good jazz guitar sound like that in a long time. So the last thing, I'll kind of show how you can use it if you're into EDM music. So with this case, I have about 10,000 ARPs that I can control, and then I have scenes in here that I can add in and bring in different instruments and grooves and things like that. So I'll kind of use motion control to show it's doing a whole bunch of stuff in this one, this DJ Montage. So here we go. Drop it right up. So real fast, I can either sneak it in or drop it out. Or I have buttons over here too that I can control. Change the texture of the ARP. Then I have performance control, where I can drop in and out different aspects of the sound in here. So you get an idea of what you can kind of interact with it in a live kind of EDM kind of thing as well. So some more things about Montage that are probably going to be important. First of all, I'll talk about the user interface. There are things for a Motif user that are very, very common. So if you look over here, you still have your 8 knobs, you have your 8 sliders, but we really improved on them. For one thing, on the knobs, there's LEDs around the rotary control knobs here. So if I move from one thing to another, it remembers where they're at, and I don't have to find the latch point to catch it or any of that stuff. They're just continuous, and they remember where they're at. That's an improvement over the Motif XF. Another thing is we have stepladder LEDs right next to the faders, so you can see them better, so you can see exactly where your mix position is or anything like that. Obviously, the super knob. The super knob, generally, it's in this state where the knob's flashing. So, and you can change a whole, there's like probably 30 or 40 different color varieties that it can do. But let's say I hate that. I don't want it to flash. So I can turn off the flash. And if somebody really wants to just turn it off, you can just turn off the knob. So it's just this big, cool knob. Although myself, I'm a knob guy. I like it on. So that's the super knob. And then the cool thing I like about the interface itself is I think we've really simplified and streamlined the workflow. So one way that I think we've simplified it is the Motif had a performance, voice, master mode, song and pattern mode. So there's all these modes. And I would go out and meet customers and artists and stuff, and I'd realize that some of them never got out of the performance mode because they never wanted to do that. And my analogy was with the iPhone thing where I don't have every app that was ever made for the iPhone. I have the apps that are relevant to me. It's the same thing with a musician. A musician, we're only going to use stuff that's relevant to their music. So why do we have all these modes and stuff? And why don't we just make a single mode and call it performance mode and allow you to find sounds and organize them inside of a live set, but still have category search. That works. But what about sequencing? Well, it has a sketch sequencer on board where I can easily record the performances quickly, but it's not a full-on sequencer because we've been noticing that the sequencer, the workstation market, has been going like this, but the synth market is going this way. So why is that? Well, because we know that more people are getting more used to using computers. So what do we need to do? We need to add a built-in USB audio MIDI interface to Montage, which we have. You can send 16 stereo channels to the DAW and return 3 back for monitoring purposes. So I can monitor out of the assignable outs or the main stereo outs. So all the channels can be sent over at 44.1. If I want to go to 192, I get 4 stereo channels, but I get 4 digital stereo channels to the DAW. That's a great improvement over, we used to charge you for that, right? There's built-in flash memory. The flash memory, we used to charge you for that too. Well, now we have 1.75 gigabytes of flash that loads about 10 times faster than the old one. So it took me about 2 minutes to load the Chick Corea Roads in Montage. It takes about 20 minutes with Motif. So, you know, with that, with more WaveROM, 2 engines, more polyphony, this motion control interface, that's what you get with Montage. And the thing I can say just to you guys over on Synthtopia is if you compare these two, when you get a chance to see them in the store and compare them, you'll notice immediately that this is a significant upgrade both in expressiveness, in sound quality, across the board. I didn't talk about the sound quality part. There's a thing that they added called Pure Analog Circuit, which sits right at the D to A that we got from our Steinberg friends that basically boosts the low and the low mids and then totally really defines the mid-range so that there's this really nice detail to the sound. And the sounds, you'll notice that it's a lot drier in this because we don't need all that reverb anymore because the sound quality is so big that we don't have to, you know, I just like how they did the production on it. It just sounds a lot more full, a lot rich, and a lot more detailed. The price point is $39.99 for the 8, $29.99 for the 6, and then right in the middle is $34.99 for the 7. We're looking, it's in the stores by May. People want to find out more information, YamahaSynth.com, Yamaha.com as well, but YamahaSynth.com is kind of where we're pointing everybody for information on Montage, as we're going to be populating that with tons of information as we move forward about lots of stuff. So, okay, thanks a lot.